welcome back. If you haven't defined yourself on the depths of the interwebs today, then my name is Ella. This is my channel where I talk a lot and edit badly. Today I'm doing quite a popular video called If You Like This, Then Read This, except for there's a slight twist. Because two of mine are going to be, if you hate this, then absolutely do not read this, which I find very exciting. So, without further ado, let's just get into it because you hear me talk enough and I'm sure you're sick of it. So, the first two books are going to be, if you liked, sorry, I annotated this for school, Wilder Girls, or if you didn't like Wilder Girls by Rory Powers, then do not read Agnes at the End of the World by Kelly McWilliams. They're actually both like beautiful books and they look very similar. They're looking in different directions. Now they're looking at each other. So The Wilder Girls is about girls in boarding schools, in a boarding school, and the world is kind of being taken over by this tox, which is specifically affecting them, and they're in quarantine at their school. It's mutating their bodies, there's body horror, that's it, that's basically it. Agnes at the End of the World is about this girl named Agnes, and she is in a cult. And the outside world is also in a pretty bad, like, I don't know what they call it. Oh, it's called a viral pandemic. Never heard of that before. Which is sweeping the outside of the cult. So obviously they both follow like these pandemics, these toxins. They both have some like body mutilation in them. The main criticism of Wilder Girls is always the ending and how open it is. And if you don't like confusing books, hi, how are you? This book confused me so much. I had to go back and read parts of it. And what's very similar is in both these books, I really enjoyed part one. I was super into it. But the second part was really confusing and kind of just took a swift turn. The ending of this book, crazy. I don't know what was happening the whole time. And I don't want to say anything about it because I don't want to spoil it. And they're very similar books, so they have a very similar vibe. They're both like in a secluded setting that they slowly realize isn't all it's supposed to be. So they're basically just glorified dystopian YA. Oops, I said it. For me, I gave both of these 3 stars, but the endings really ruined it for me. Did not like the openness of them. The next book, if you did not like The Marsh King's Daughter, then I don't think you're going to like Ruthless. So I described Ruthless as a YA version of The Marsh King's Daughter without any of the character development. It's about this girl, Ruthless is about this girl who gets kidnapped. And she basically spends the whole book trying to escape. It's a very short book. Then The Marsh King's Daughter is a very similar vein, except for its dual timelines, one of which when the main protagonist was a kid, and one when she is hunting her father. So, obviously one is being hunted, the other one is the hunter, but they both mainly follow, they both mainly follow, like, a capable female protagonist that is, like, who is like navigating her way through the woods. I did like the protagonist in The Marsh King's Daughter a little bit more than Ruthless, which is why I said if you didn't like The Marsh King's Daughter, you're not gonna like Ruthless very much, because it's very much not character developed. It's pretty plot based, and they're also both very like good versus evil. Like there's little gray morality. You root for the main character and not for the other person, which is why I said definitely Ruthless isn't for you if you didn't like The Marsh King's Daughter. I actually did like The Marsh King's Daughter. I heard a lot of hype about it for like a week on Book Talk. Bookish TikTok, that's what it is. Really interesting place. I haven't heard about it since, but I heard about it like 5 times in one day. So I decided to pick it up. I ended up really enjoying it. In Ruthless, I kind of enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was fun, but I didn't really get everything that happened in it. So the next 2 are going to be, if you did like this book, then read this other book. So my first is, if you liked Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, I think that you would really like The Silent Patient. So first of all, they're both domestic thrillers, which is a very large subgenre of the thriller genre. And they just both gave me the same vibe. Like, I was reading The Silent Patient. I read both of them on audiobook. And The Silent Patient, I was expecting the same plot twist as Gone Girl because of how, like, just similar the vibes were. The plot twists, to me, were kind of similar. I'm not going to go into that depth with them, but they definitely did remind me of each other a lot. They also both follow very dysfunctional relationships where both the woman and the man and the relationship are not very good people. And both main male protagonist and a main female protagonist, they're both have very questionable morals. I think in The Silent, I think it's kind of the opposite in Gone Girl and The Silent Patient. Is that a spoiler? Not really, I guess. Like, if you read them, you know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't read them, then you don't. So that's not a spoiler. Hopefully. And also, they are both told in, like, 2 perspectives, with a female perspective is written in diary entries, and that slowly reveals her part of the plot. So, if you like multimedia diary entries, I definitely think that The Silent Patient will be a next great thriller for you. Although I didn't like it as much as Gone Girl, but I just really loved Gone Girl. But that is because, like, interesting story. Somebody told me, someone spoiled it for me, but they gave me the wrong twist. Like, they were like, this is how Gone Girl ends. And they told me something that was not true. So I spent the whole book being like, oh, I know who did it. And, which is why I wasn't, like, guessing or anything. Because if I was actively thinking about it, I might have been able to figure it out. Who knows? But then the plot twist happened and I was so shocked because somebody lied to me. So this next one actually, like, screamed out to me that these 2 books were so similar. And it's because they really, really are character-wise. But I don't think, like, if you haven't read either of them, or both of them, that you would really make the connection, or I don't know, because who knows. But that is, like, one of my favorite books of all time, Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I do not shut up about this book. So if this is your first time on my channel, hi, how are you? And, the Young Elites trilogy by Marie Lu. It's particularly the second book, The Rose Society. I'd say The Rose Society is most like Vicious, then The Young Elites, then The Midnight Star. Where do I begin? I'm straight up, I wrote all these plot points on my Goodreads review for The Rose Society, so I'm reading off of that right now. The main plots, like the main, premise is about people who experience near-death experiences gaining superpowers. In Vicious, it's just like through any near-death experience and anyone can get it. The Young Elites, there was a disease that affected a lot of people, and the children who survived became Young Elites or malfectos, but that's like a derogatory term for them because people are like hunting them. And they're both like pursued by society, particularly in Vengeful instead of Vicious, but I'm kind of just comparing the 2 series. And because society is pursuing them, they need to team up. Adelita and Victor Vale are surprisingly similar. At first, Adelina seems like a more sympathetic character, but she, like, turns into a more typically, like villain. Like, she goes from good to bad, while Victor's just kind of morally gray the entire time. But both of their powers are also similar because they both manipulate pain. And while that is Victor's main power, like his only power in Vicious, Adelina actually has the power to induce hallucinations, but the one she uses mostly on the offense is to cause pain. And also, both of their powers, like, betray them, or start to, like, turn on them. Again, that's more prominent and vengeful. I should go get it, but I do not want to walk all the way over there. I do not want to walk 4 feet, so I'm just gonna hold up this book instead. They're just both extremely morally gray and have questionable motives. They both also have somebody who, like, manages to bring out their humane side. For Victor, it is Sydney Clark, who is this 13-year-old girl he teams up with. And for Adelina, it is her little sister, of which I do not remember her name, who manages to take away powers, and they kind of soften their dark sides. Victor, he warms up to Sydney. They have this really cute found family thing, but, like, it's not found family, it's found dysfunctional family. And guess what the young elites have? A found dysfunctional family. And I love it. I love it so much. Now let's talk about the villains. Let's talk about Elliot Cardale, aka Eli Ever, and whatever this guy's name was, because I don't remember. They both have the power to heal themselves, and they cannot die. They both have abusive fathers. They both, despite having powers themselves, think that they are holy and that the gods have given them this power, and think that they should destroy everybody else who has powers. They're pretty much the same person. Pretty much, yeah, that's... Except for, the one dude actually has a capability to love someone, and Eli's, he does not. And also, one other thing they have in common is if you really liked the dynamic between Victor and Eli, where they were friends, and then they became enemies, there's a lot of that in the Young Elites trilogy. And while I don't exactly think they share the same vibe, this is very dark academia, like, very, very nice, and the Young Elites is a high fantasy. And it does have very, like, interesting culture and world building, but it's definitely not the same as Vicious. Of course, I do love Vicious, like, way more. But I usually don't compare anything to Vicious, so the fact that, like, this is even on a comparable level for me means I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I definitely think if you liked either of these books, then you should try the other, even if it's just for morally gray characters and found dysfunctional families. I spent, like, most of that video talking about Vicious, but I spend the most of every video talking about Vicious, so you should just probably get used to it by this point. And that is it. If you have any recommendations for me, or recommendations based on other books in this, leave a comment. I really like seeing comments. They make me happy. And I'm trying to get to 30 subscribers, and when I do, I will sell my soul. So, subscribe for me to do that on camera. And that's it. Yeah, like, subscribe if you feel so inclined. And, have a nice day. That is my outro now. I don't know how that happened, but yes.